Hello, everyone, and welcome to this annual Fair Future Summit. It's our pleasure to welcome you to this annual edition. It's been 6 long years of the Hair Future Summit in various formats. This year, it comes in the digital edition, and we are pleased to welcome you to this year's summit. Welcome, everyone, once again. Stick and stay with us as we go through today's packed agenda. This is the annual edition, an initiative hosted by the Global Startup Ecosystem in partnership with Google Cloud, AWS, IBM Cloud, HubSpot, and many more. This year's digital edition will be streamed live across various platforms and networks for you to have this amazing experience with us today. So welcome once again to this annual edition. This year's theme is Accelerating Progress, Promoting Gender Diversity and Inclusivity. This theme comes as an apt time, and it will emphasize the progress that has been made in promoting gender diversity and inclusivity in many areas of corporate entrepreneurship and various fields and industries across the world. In accelerating progress of the efforts that is being made towards promoting gender diversity and inclusivity, we would look at various aspects of the goals that are being fought for, the mission and the drives that are being made. The panels will also discuss some aspects of these in corporate spaces and also as well as with digital spaces as well. So delve deep into this theme today with various keynotes and panel discussions that would help throw more light into efforts that are being made and the efforts that are being made in various corners across the globe. So welcome to this year's theme, Accelerating Progress, Promoting Gender Diversity and Inclusivity. We have an array of speakers to delve into these discussions. So today, we kickstart today's session with a keynote. We'll have our first keynote from Alette Philip, who is the Head of Enterprise Development of UNCTAD. It will be my pleasure to welcome her shortly to the screen to give the first keynote address for this year's summit. So we'll kickstart with a brief 30-second countdown while we get ready for our first keynote. First speaker is Alette. She's a lawyer and she currently serves as a head of enterprise development at UNCTAD with extensive experience in spearheading high-level development projects on entrepreneurship development that are internationally recognized as innovative approaches to sustainable development goals. She is dedicated to taking cutting-edge approaches to individual empowerment through entrepreneurship and collaboration and leads the Empretech Women in Business Awards. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome Alette to the 6th Annual Her Future Summit to give her keynote address. Welcome, Alette. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure being here. As you already introduced me, indeed, I lead the work on entrepreneurship development at the United Nations Body on Trade and Development, and it's a pleasure to deliver the keynote address at the 2024 Her Future Summit on Promoting Gender Diversity and Inclusivity from the Palais des Nations from Geneva. So to start with the word inclusivity, that's quite a big word. Today, we see that 2 men entrepreneurs exist for every women entrepreneur. Globally, about 68% of all businesses don't have a woman involved in their ownership, and only 16% of all businesses are owned by women. Also, women-led businesses tend to be smaller, less resilient, and scale rather slowly. And this comes at a cost, not only including women in the workforce, but also creating equal chances. It can reach up to 30% of national gross domestic product that gets lost. And this is a missed opportunity. So now discussing how progress can be accelerated is a very timely discussion. The COVID-19 pandemic, the cascading crisis that the world faces, such as high interest rates, increased energy costs, disrupted value change, and political tensions, impact all entrepreneurs, but yet again, women entrepreneurs particularly. So adding to this disruption, new technologies are coming along. Think, for instance, of artificial intelligence and the need to change economic business models from a take, make, waste economy to a circular one. A new era actually begins. And with a new era, there's a rise of potential new opportunities. And this brings me to wanting to highlight two important elements. And the first one is that before talking about what to do, there needs to be a clear understanding of the challenges women face, women entrepreneurs. The second element is that accelerating progress calls for a multi-stakeholder approach, for a shared responsibility by all. And in this spirit of shared responsibility, it is key to recognize that progress towards a more inclusive ecosystem requires the active engagement and commitment of everyone, including men, to support and champion the cause. Now, from a United Nations perspective, and I know most of you are private sector representatives, I'd like to give a few pointers of what we see that can be done in this area. But first of all, governments play a key role. When they develop a national entrepreneurship strategy, they should address the needs of every type of entrepreneur in order to succeed. This includes women entrepreneurs and their specific problems. And when governments think of a national entrepreneurship strategy, it should provide a long-term vision that allow women entrepreneurs and supportive stakeholders in the business ecosystem to project themselves into the future. And here, what can we think of? Social safety nets that will be of special help to those working in the informal sector. You will recall that this group was left out from any support system during the COVID-19 pandemic. Then we can look at regulations that facilitate women to own land, to set up a business, to have a bank account. In some parts of the world, this is not a given. Regulations on procurement that promote women inclusion. And of course, the promotion of gender diversity measures that relate to access to healthcare, maternity leave, and childcare. Now, if we look in another area, the financial sector, also very important, we can look at fiscal tools, subsidies, risk-sharing programs, and financial literacy training that can help improve the scaling of women-led enterprises and that can reinforce them. Also, the creation of funding programs for women-led enterprises that are adapted to their needs with more and better information sharing on the financial tools that are available, both through traditional and non-traditional means. And here we can look at fintech, for example, that provides more favorable conditions for women entrepreneurs. Now, another focus area that can accelerate progress is an increased participation of women in the triangle of research, innovation, and business creation and scaling. Women-focused programs on the promotion of innovation and their inclusion in clustering can be designed for universities, research institutions, incubators, and accelerators. Also, digitalization offers new opportunities for women due to the ability to work remotely and during flexible working hours that better balance work and home. New business models will see the day with AI that also opens new doors for women entrepreneurs. Now, an additional area of opportunities that is on the horizon is the transition to a greener economy. The take, make, waste business model is more and more being replaced by more suitable, sustainable approaches that women entrepreneurs can tap into. And yet, none of this can be achieved without entrepreneurial skills. Educational programs need to be reinforced and tailored to the needs of women entrepreneurs to not only enable them to create a business, but also to make them grow and become sustainable. Here again, incubators and accelerators, mentoring and advisory service, educational training programs, and the design of facilitation tools are key. For example, multinationals and businesses located in special economic zones can share best practices and contribute to talent management with a special focus on women. In fact, skills development is high on the agenda of many governments in developing countries. And here I want to highlight, as was already mentioned in the introduction, ANTE's flagship program, Empretech, that offers workshops on 10 entrepreneurial competencies. It's been running over 30 years, with graduates turning into successful women entrepreneurs, with businesses offering jobs to entire communities. Yet all of these efforts that I mentioned can be presented also through awareness-raising campaigns, where a positive narrative can be created around role models as well as on footsteps for the next generation of women entrepreneurs. Now, many of the issues I raised before are even low-hanging fruits, where focus on women-led businesses can easily be plugged in. But this demands, as I said, a shared responsibility mindset and a strong push by the regulatory system. The outcomes go well beyond promoting gender diversity and inclusivity, as they benefit societies as a whole and stimulate socioeconomic growth. Now, thank you for having given me the opportunity to deliver this keynote address, which I hope contributes to an important discussion of today.
For that speech. We are really grateful for your thought leadership today. That we do hope that as well, and next year by this time we'll be having a discussion to see what has happened in that space. We'll look at the improvement that has happened for inclusivity and gender diversity as well. But thank you so much for coming on today. It was a real pleasure having you on. So that was our first keynote address by Alex, and we are really glad that she could share her thought leadership with us today. We'll now transition to our second address. We'll have our second keynote address from Mary. She'll be joining us shortly, but let me introduce Mary. Mary Cleves is a transformation catalyst. She supports leaders, executives, and business owners as they grow into their next level of leadership. She's passionate about igniting change in individuals to uncover their unique path to living their most aligned life. Mary also hosts the Change from Within podcast, a top 5% podcast dedicated to personal transformation and stories of change. Her work has been featured in Forbes, NPR, NBC News. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to welcome Mary to the 6th annual edition of the Hair Future Summit.
Hello, thank you for having me.
All right. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen. Just a moment as I share the slides. I'm so excited to be with all of you today and to speak about how to live a more aligned life. Okay. All right. So here we are. Okay, my name is Mary Clavier. I'm going to talk today about 7 steps to living a more aligned life. Now, these are some things that I found from my personal experiences and also working with leaders and organizations and executives on personal transformation. I like to say, take what resonates for you and leave the rest wherever you are on your journey so that this can be as powerful as possible to help you with your path. Okay, a little about me. We already had the introduction, but I'm a transformation catalyst. So I'm really here to to mentor and guide people along their journeys. You already have everything within yourself. It's a matter of what can be unlocked for your next step to get you where you want to be. I've been in the entrepreneurship path for the last 8 years, and before that came from corporate America, Fortune 100 company. And all of this, what I'm going to share today, is part of some of that in uncovering in those experiences. And everything that you've had in your life coming up to this moment is also here to share for you. So, okay, before we start with the actual 7 steps, there's a few foundational pieces that I'd like you to know about. 3 things, really. The first part is putting yourself first in this process. Whatever transformation you are going through right now, really make time for yourself in wherever you are for your life, even if it's only for a few minutes a day. It's really important to be able to listen to what you are feeling, your thoughts and feelings and perspectives. Okay? Ditch the worry about what others will think, because you'll get a lot of noise from other people. And especially if you're looking at the entrepreneurship path, you may be looked at as someone, you may be so creative that other people can't understand where you're coming from. So you have to block that out as you go step more into your path and your knowing, and do what feels best to you. And really come with an open heart and an open mind. Be curious about learning different things. Be willing to be open and exploring new ways of working and being, because that's where everything really happens. That's where the magic happens. All right, so then we'll get into the steps, and really showing up for yourself in all of this. That's what matters most, if you take anything from all of this. All right, so for the first step is, if you're feeling stuck, or if you're not really sure where you want to go and how you get into more alignment, it's about feeling into, what is your biggest dream? What is your biggest desire? What do you want to do instead? What is that calling that you know that's inside you? And again, this is your process and your journey, so nothing is off limits. You really have to sit with yourself to see what that is for you, and trust your inner knowing. The second step is taking a look at your mind. What is your mind telling you? There's a lot of activities. You'll see this is going to be really practical, tangible advice. So feel free to take notes, or I can share information after. But there's an activity that you can do around your mind, around listing all of the reasons why you don't think you can reach that dream that you have, or why you haven't reached it yet. And it's about taking a look at that and seeing what patterns there are. What patterns can you uncover about yourself and the stories that you tell yourself, whether it's something from your past and growing up, or something with the other people around you, or society and where you live, whatever it is. But take a look at what your mind is telling you, because our thoughts have such a powerful hold over how we go about the transformation process. The third step is taking a look at your body. The body is so powerful. So what is your body telling you? And in a lot of cases, I like to use this for myself, you can use body activities to quiet your mind, to get out of your mind and into your body, to get out of all the running thoughts, all the things that keep you back, keep you small, or hold you back from what you really want to do, and shift that into doing body exercises so that you can come back to your own center, and so that you can listen to that true calling and that voice within yourself. So some things that I like to use: breath work, tapping, yoga and meditation, any kind of movement or exercise. It will look different for different people. Think about what hobbies you have that you love, anything that can really shift and get you out of the doubt and worry, and back into your body and your truth. Okay, the fourth step is about making your plan. So there's a whole activity that you can do around this too, which is looking at, what is the goal that you really want to have? Where do you desire to go? What's that alignment that you're looking for? Writing it all down, and then putting it in order, and then blocking out time each day to work on it, or once a week, or whatever you have time for. There's a lot of information in here. So again, take it bit by bit to get to where you want to go, but really take a look at, how can you do that and put some structure around it so that it actually gets done. It's all about creating new habits, but creating them in ways that work for you. Okay, the fifth step, this is looking at what happens if you stay stuck where you are, because there's a lot about moving into alignment, becoming more of your true self and following that calling, that it can sometimes feel hard and it can feel challenging, and you can doubt yourself and you can think, oh, well, I can't really do this, or so and so is doing that, or whatever the voices are telling you, right? So, another activity that I like to share is to take a look at what happens if you stay stuck where you are. Where are you going to be in this next 6 months, year, or 5 years? And how can that help you in shifting your perspective? And how can that help you in knowing that you really are meant to be going in the direction of the calling? Okay. And then after you look at that and you sit with those reasons of what might keep you stuck and what happens if you don't take the action, the next piece is, but what happens if you do take the action? What happens if you do something for yourself today? What do those possibilities look like? And where, again, can your life be 6 months, 1 year, or 5 years from now? Right? It can be a very different path. And I'm not saying to force and push and hustle your way to something. It's really about following what works for you and what feels best for you, but taking a look at that honestly and openly between if you take action and if you don't take action. And then the last piece is just knowing and understanding in terms of integration. This is a journey, it's a process. I fully believe in marathon, not a sprint, right? So big goals and big dreams have layers of changes to them. You don't have to do it all at once. You really are not meant to do it all at once. It's about continuous incremental change and really taking a look at all those steps when you do feel stuck. Observe your thoughts. What's your mind telling you? Get out of your mind and into your body with body practices. Connect to your why and the possibilities of where you are and where you want to be compared to how you might feel stuck or overwhelmed. Okay, so anytime you do get stuck, you can go back and follow these steps and say, okay, where am I in this process? And where do I want to go next? And how can I have that movement to get to more of that alignment? Because the alignment is really, your alignment is with what feels truest to you. And most importantly, above everything else, is really find what works best for you. I know for me personally, I've spent a lot of time worrying about what a lot of other people think and not listening to myself as much as I could have in the past. And even though I'm here giving this presentation and sharing these tips and steps, find what works for you and really leave the rest behind. It's your process, it's your journey, it's your career path or business or family or anything that's in your dreams and your goals. It's for you, not for anybody else. So please remember that. And then really, if you would like to go deeper with this information, first, I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to all of this. And if you want those steps in more detail, you can go to this website link, maryclavier.com/resources, and you can get a free 7-day series to support you to becoming your most aligned self. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mary. Find what best works for you. I think that was a good ending to that, and we are so grateful that you could join us today for the session. Thank you so much for your thought leadership. Okay, so that was Mary Cleves. We've had our second keynote, and we'll quickly transition to our third keynote speaker before our first panel. So for our third keynote speaker, we have Samantha Ski. Samantha Ski is the Chief Executive Officer of She Media. It's a top 10 lifestyle media company that's reaching 74 million monthly unique visitors. Throughout her career, Samantha has exhibited a long-standing commitment to advancement of equity and inclusion through media in the Media Collab, Whole Life Health, and XXSW, bringing women's health innovation to an international stage. She led the launch of Flow Space, which is the new digital and live media platform providing content, community, and commerce in service of women and health. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Samantha to the
Hey,
Her Future Summit's annual edition.
hi there.
Welcome,
Can you hear me, Danielle? Yeah, okay. I'll assume you can
Yes,
hear me.
all loud and clear.
And I don't know if we're going to show slides or not. Either way is fine. But thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and to listen to these past two keynotes has been really illustrative to me. So thank you to my co-presenters. So as mentioned, I'm CEO for She Media, and we are owned by a larger media conglomerate called Penske Media. We were acquired about 5 years ago. So that's it's been fun to see how we can take our mission and grow that mission with a larger media company supporting us. What I'd like to talk about is how we take our mission, our purpose, and really integrate it into our business. For most of my career, I've tried to focus on a combination of purpose and profit. I knew I wanted to, or I figured out that I wanted to work in for-profit industries back in my 20s, and to serve on other types of organizational boards for learning on deeper social impact. So what my effort for career has been is to integrate tangible purpose or tangible social impact into essentially my bottom line. So sometimes called triple bottom line, like for people, purpose, profit, and it can be very difficult to mediate between those two objectives, if we talk about purpose and profit, when they're in conflict. So again, this isn't something I've solved, but it's something I continue to pursue. So how have I focused on that, and how would I recommend any of us contemplating the impact we can have? This is how I do it. I look at the business model and say, okay, our mission at She Media is to advance equity and opportunity for women and diverse populations. We're a media company, as mentioned. Oh, here we go. Here's some slides. We're a media company, so we produce content. And we hope that people across the internet want to consume that content and learn something from it. But we're not a business publication. We are, consumer internet. So meaning that our content ranges from, some of our websites might be entertainment, some are focused on parenting, on health, some fashion. The way that I can set goals so that we can see tangible outcomes is primarily through the representation of content creators who are indeed diverse and who are endeavoring to produce their own opportunity, their own profitable models. And how do we make money working with them is kind of the question. I'd love to work with some of the incredibly brilliant content creators out there who are running, for example, websites that focus on integrating plant-based nutrition into underserved communities. That is something that in my career I've always been interested in, is how do we make nutrition less elitist? However, in running a media company that's primarily generating its revenues from advertising and from subscriptions, I had to figure out how we could do that. How could we, represent some of these independent publishers while also pursuing our own goal? And looking at, the slide here, founders with greater gender and ethnic diversity achieve higher returns. My company, my staff, I believe, achieves greater interest and outcome by working with diverse publishers and not just with our owned and operated editorial work. So what we did was created a collective of 2,000 websites. We produced an ad tech solution that we can deploy across those 2,000 sites. The sites are curated based on ownership. So a lot of the websites are owned by Hispanic, are less, 75% are owned by women. So by deploying this ad tech solution, we create a way for the smaller websites or publications who don't have a full operational staff or sales staff. We create a way for them to make money on the content they're producing. Well, also we take a cut transparently. We let the publishers know that we will take, say, 15% of revenues earned, and we will contribute about $1.5 million in terms of the resource support we give to the publishers. It's on paper and in reality makes great sense for the publishers. Our job then is to ensure that we are monitoring that content, representing that content adequately and really even very positively in the marketplace with advertisers, so that both entities can earn. If we're not earning on the She Media side, I learned early in my career that no amount of great effort and goodwill is going to produce a company that can scale if it's not driving bottom line outcomes. So our editorial team curates this collective of websites very carefully and thoughtfully. Some have to be big. They have to have big reach in order for us to accommodate advertisers who want super subsegments in audience. So the way that works, the way that we can allow all boats to rise, is that we have some sites who are doing the work on big reach, and then we can attach to those advertising contracts the sites that are smaller but maybe have a really important niche. And that will raise the amount that we can charge essentially for the smaller independent sites or the mid-sized independent sites, those that are both diversely owned and who are accommodating underserved audiences with profoundly impactful content. So we look at all of the data that I'm running across the screen right now is relevant in two ways. Thing one would be that my company will be more successful, I believe, if we have a diverse group of publishers in our collective. So this is adjacent to ensuring that we have a diverse population of employees. But I'd go even further than that and say we also need a diverse collection of content creators and publishers to ensure that the content we're putting out in the world represents thousands and thousands of creators and tens of millions of consumers or citizens. And I can't do that with my own editorial team alone. It simply would be prohibitively expensive in this media market, the way that social media works and the way that content's distributed now can often defund journalism. But that's another presentation for another day. So women-owned businesses, performance, minority entrepreneurs are driving great outcomes for our economy. We represent, meaning that we are monetizing over 300 Black-owned businesses through publishing. We're generating we represent about 400 Latinx-owned businesses. And as mentioned, I think over 75% of the 2,000 publishers we represent are woman-owned. Many other diversity elements are included here. I just don't want to list every aspect in case I miss somebody or I miss some factor. So we are, through this model, we're spending approximately or distributing approximately $30 million in ad revenue to smaller businesses so that they can grow. We also provide services to these independent websites to ensure that overall we're investing in our business model, invests in minority entrepreneurs and diverse entrepreneurs, diverse content for the world to consume. And as long as we can keep the profit and the purpose aligned, we will continue to scale our impact. So I'd just say, sort of in summary of this position, that we as business owners must create business models that integrate both. I'll say this in a minute, this slide, even though it got a little janky. We must create business models that allow our purpose and our profit to be aligned. in alignment. And it's great to follow the last keynote where we're talking about alignment of our own business and life, life outlook, and to think of that alignment as essential to our individual productivity and to the productivity of our business. Our business is useful to me. So thank you for that. And I think that the way that we can do that is by having really clear metrics. So most businesses who are profitable or who are focused on profit and shareholder value have really clear KPIs or goals to deliver profit. We don't, most of us, have clear impact goals that for social change. We do, so we track and publish, everything from our composition of our our management staff. Pay equity is published, and so too is the mix of publishers we represent. Sorry about the video. I'll just keep talking through it in case that looks funny to you guys. So with those KPIs, we can see if we're progressing. We're not always progressing. Sometimes we might take a step back in a bad quarter and find that our revenues we're generating on behalf of independent publishers go down. And that's something that if we can see it clearly, if my teams can see it clearly, we can address. But I always talk about this path of look at the data, look at the insight, and then take the action so that we can really hold ourselves accountable. Publishing our goals is another way to keep ourselves accountable so that the commitment is bigger than the individuals and becomes woven into the company's mission and public image. So those are some of the things we've tried. I hope that's useful as an example of ways that you can integrate profit and purpose with, again, a goal of creating stronger, healthier businesses that provide opportunity not just to diverse business executives, but also to diversely owned media companies. So I will leave it there. Thank you so much for listening. I hope to see people on LinkedIn or elsewhere. My name is Samantha Ski, and I'm pretty easy to find because I have a weird last name. I'm pretty easy to find.
All right. Thank you so much, Samantha, for that amazing keynotes. And so it's a real pleasure having you on today as well. You share really great insights for business owners to consider. And I'm sure the business owners and entrepreneurs online today will be able to take a key from that as well. But thank you so much for joining this year. We are always grateful for your support.
Thank you.
So we'll now transition to our first panel for the day. So we've had 3 keynotes, back-to-back keynotes already, and now let's jet up towards our first panel for the day. We would have a panel on the topic. Before we transition to the first panel, we'll take a brief 30 minutes break to get the panelists ready for the first panel. 30-second break. Break. So our first panel of the day would be the corporate innovation ecosystem of the future, opportunity for women. To take us through this panel, we would have our moderator, Busi Matiko, to take us through that first panel of the day. Now, Busi Matiko, she offers extensive executive business development strategy and guidance for global thought leaders and influencers, including event curation, celebrity outreach, healthcare advisory, philanthropy advisory, community outreach, diversity and inclusion advisory, also coaching and consultancy. She's expanded her business vision to create a better world. She also utilizes her expertise to drive private sector engagement of the United Nations Development Goals. It's my pleasure to welcome Lucy Matiko to the Air Future Summit stage to kick off the first panel, the corporate innovation ecosystem of the future. So without wasting my time, welcome Lucy to welcome the rest of the panelists to this stage. Hi, Lucy, and
Thank you so
welcome.
much, Daniel. Thank you so much, Daniel. And it's always a pleasure to be on this platform with amazing people. Yes, and I'm looking forward to this discussion. Our panel being the corporate innovation ecosystem of the future, the opportunity for women. And it's an esteemed pleasure to welcome Petia Abdul Razak as well as Sophia Swire to this platform. Welcome, ladies.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for having me again.
It's always a pleasure.
Always, always.
Hi, Sophia. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm well. Boosie, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. How is I believe you're in
Wonderful. Nice to
Ireland.
see you. I am,
Where in
and
the world are
it's
you?
the most beautiful place. It's the west coast of Ireland. The next village over is New York, and it's bucketing rain in typical Irish fashion, and it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life.
Okay, my mom lived in Galway.
How lovely. Well, I'm in County Donegal.
Okay. And Petia, where in the world are you?
I am in Harlem, New York. Very close to
Awesome.
where you are, I think, right?
Yes, I'm in Long Island, New York. So,
Yes. Yes.
But yes, let's get started. I'm excited about what gems you ladies are going to drop. I'll start you with Petia. Just tell us a little bit about your journey. I mean, and experiences as a digital marketing strategist and an entrepreneur. I mean, you've now gone on an interesting journey,
Yes.
particularly highlighting the challenges, opportunities you've encountered as Petia and as a woman.
Yes, sure. So to lay the foundation for those of you who don't know me, even though I've been a part of these events for a couple of years now, my name is Fatia Abdul-Razak, and I own a digital marketing agency here in Harlem. It's called the Stylista Group, and we provide services to lifestyle and luxury brands in the SMB market, and we've also had some corporate clients over the years. So in terms of my journey as a digital marketing strategist, I won't tell you how long ago this was, but when I graduated from college, it was right at the beginning of what we know now as digital marketing. So I was lucky enough to work for the Boston Globe at the time. And this was at the launch of Boston.com, which was their website. They were one of the first newspapers in the US to go digital, right? And so it was a really exciting time. And I often chuckle to myself when I think about what digital marketing was back then. But I realized the value in being part of the journey from the very beginning, right? And so, what was digital marketing back then? Digital marketing back then was throwing a couple banner ads and tile ads on a website and hoping for the best, and really starting to understand the value of digital eyeballs, right? Because before we're going from newspaper readership, right, distribution in that way, you deliver a paper, you're not really sure if people are reading it or not. However, when the paper went to digital, we were actually able to see, right, in real time exactly what was happening, what parts of the website were getting the most traffic. That is how we knew where to put ads for certain industries. So it was really an exciting time. But compared to right now, like 20 something years later, it was still very simple, right? And so, in terms of my journey, like I said, I do consider myself to be blessed being able to actually follow along everything that has come over the past 20 plus years. I worked in corporate for about 15 years. and then decided to go off on my own. So I've had my digital agency for about 14 years. And the decision to become an entrepreneur, I never really wanted to be an entrepreneur, to be honest. My goal was to climb the corporate ladder. So you do all of the things that are prescribed. You go to business school and all of this good stuff. But the economy kept dipping. I've been laid off twice in my life. And the second time that it happened, I said to myself, enough of this, right? Because, people are making decisions affecting my life. And so I'm going to charter my own course. And so I decided to become a marketing consultant. I will say that there are ups and downs, as they are in every industry. And for me, I would say specifically as a woman, I have found the partnerships to be very helpful, right? You get to learn from other people, you get to innovate, you have the opportunity to go after business that by yourself you may not have the opportunity to even be in the same room. But if you can find the right people to partner with, and you can kind of pool your resources and your different strengths, you're actually able to present unique. There are things that are unique about women. We have our own strengths. And so, instead of feeling sorry for yourself and saying, oh, how am I ever going to get wherever? I think what we need to do as women in general is we need to learn to lean into our strengths and to show the value that those strengths can bring to the table.
Absolutely. I mean, it's interesting you say that, because it's vital that we strengthen our ecosystem. And I believe one of our strengths as women is soft power, and leaning into it. And that will because I mean, Petra, we've met through you were working consulting Google as well as at SAP, and then but then I have another connection with you via Uganda and an organization. You're in the board.
Right.
So it's one of those interconnectedness situations. And then we have Sophia Swire here, who's also been a trendsetter. She's an early adapter, an entrepreneur, pioneer. And Sophia, tell us about your experiences. I mean, you've been in interesting zones as well, but it all comes together. What's the common thread with what you've been doing? And tell us
Well,
who
I
Sophia.
think, Busi, okay, so first of all, thank you so much. It's a wonderful honor to be invited to participate in this panel, and for me, it's a first time. So thank you for inviting me. I hope to be able to participate again in future. So I agree totally. I think that for me, one of the distinguishing features about women's leadership is our ability to collaborate, and one of the things that has really strung my life together has been this idea of women-led networks and collaboration and tapping into and strengthening each other's. You have to be an army if you're going to succeed as a woman. We face so many barriers. I'm obviously British. You can hear from my accent. I'm sort of a Londoner, and I grew up in a very patriarchal, male-dominated world in which, as a woman, I wasn't expected to really do anything other than get married, have children, and have a very traditional life. And so when I grew up in England, it was the time of Margaret Thatcher, at the time of greed is good in the 1980s, and there was a real culture shift changing. And when my brothers told me that they wanted me, and my brother and my father told me that they didn't want me to go to university, they wanted me to become a secretary or an art sort of gallerist or something like that, I had other ideas, and I went off into the city, and I chose a very male-dominated career, which at the time was investment banking. I was one of only 3 women on a dealing room floor of 500 men, something I have to say I enjoyed thoroughly. But the environment was very, very male-dominated and very much focused on us. It was a dog-eat-dog world, each man for himself.
Like
and I really
Street?
didn't appreciate. It was the British equivalent of Wall Street. Absolutely, it was the era of the bonfire of the vanities, and we were encouraged to dress like men. I mean, even to this day, my style is very masculine. I wear sort of very male sort of suits in a way, because I think to be taken seriously in the world of investment, especially if you happen to have blonde hair and so on, even today you probably have to find ways to compensate to be taken seriously, unfortunately, in the world of investment. Anyway, so after a few years in the city, in the British equivalent of Wall Street, I got fed up of this dog-eat-dog, male-dominated world, and I took off to the Hindu Kush. not exactly the most inclusive environment. I went off to a very beautiful former principality high up on the Afghan-Pakistan border called Chitral, a very remote area that was landlocked by snow 8 months of the year. It was very, very conservative. Women were not educated. The rate of illiteracy when I arrived was something like
When was
98%
this?
for women. Ah, that would be telling. Yeah, it was. I went out and I actually had the happiest year of my life in 1989.
Oh.
I was very young at the time, and
Mhm.
but it was the end of the Soviet war in Russia, the first sort of big Afghan war of the last century, was still raging, and the MiGs were flying overhead, and there were something like 2 or 3 million Afghan refugees camping out in this remote valley. And I helped set up a school at the invitation of the local deputy commissioner. And I witnessed firsthand the transformative power of education. I saw how these young girls would arrive illiterate. Their parents were sometimes floor sweeps or taxi drivers or small scale shopkeepers. And I witnessed how education offered an extraordinarily uplifting opportunity for particularly the girls in question. And over the years, how that school transformed the economy and the hopes and aspirations of an entire community. And now Chitral, having been a cultural and educational backwater, the rates of maternal and infant mortality are par with the rest of the country. It's still too high. The rate of literacy for women is now something closer to 33%, which is closer to the average in Pakistan. So it went from 3% to 33%. And the quality of life for everyone has been uplifted. So for me, I learned firsthand how important it is to educate women, to uplift women, because women, once they are educated and have access to jobs, they reinvest in their communities. They invest in the health and education and sort of also economic opportunities of their entire community. So if you really do want to have social impact, and I consider myself to be a serial social entrepreneur, then investing and backing women is absolutely key. And I'll just very quickly, speedily talk you through the rest of my career so that you can see how it hangs together. I discovered the Pashmina shawl at a tiny little Himalayan workshop and brought them back to Europe and the US. Pashmina was a shawl woven with cashmere and silk.
We know
Um,
pashminas.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was the Pashmina queen in the 1990s. I started that whole fashion. It became a global fashion, and it was the best selling brand in Harrods for over 15 years. And I used part of the proceeds to set up 250 private schools for girls in the sort of Himalayan Hindu Kush region. And really, since then, my life's mission has been to encourage women to step up and participate fully in their local economies through education and enterprise development. And I've worked now for the better part of 3.5 decades to remove barriers to success for women in countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Nepal, to enable women to make money, but also to do good. And for the last 10 years, since 2014, I've invested exclusively in returns first female led businesses with high impact and high returns, and particularly with those that align with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So that brings us to full circle.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much for that insights. And yeah, you're a pioneer who we reckon with. And so one of the things I wanted to ask, because you might be aware that we're in Women's Month, and not only that, the CSW 68, which is the Committee on the Status of Women, one of the challenges that has been happening is that it seems since the Beijing Conference for Women and Copenhagen Conference for Women, we've seen some women have moved, much as we're moving forward, they also seem to move backwards. And there's a call for also encouraging the he for she's. You've heard of the he for she's, men who, it's important to also include men in this journey to empower women as well. So as Patia, how would you bridge this gap with what you're doing and the men in your community to encourage fostering this development?
Yeah, I think it starts with just having open conversations, right? Like we should not be afraid to address issues and topics. What I find when I have these discussions is that, it's kind of like a silent majority. Like people are thinking the same thing, but they're just afraid to say it, right? And just starting with having conversations within your own family, within your own community, and you would actually be surprised that there are lots of men who are horrified at
Mhm.
what's going on, but they just really don't know how they can actively support women to move forward. Right. And so for me, that's where the conversation starts. There's so many organizations that exist. And I think a lot of times men feel like, well, this is only for women, so I shouldn't
Yes,
get
that's
involved.
true.
And so that's part of the education. Like, absolutely no. If you have
Mhm.
sisters and mothers and daughters and a wife that you care about and you want to see do better, then we absolutely do need you guys to be our allies and become involved.
And I also believe teaching them from when they're young.
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
just focusing 100% on the girl child, but also sensitizing and educating the boy child
I
so that
agree.
there's a bridge.
I agree.
Sophia, what would you say on this? Because it will help
I
us
think
lead
it
into our next phase.
I think it's absolutely vital to include men. There is, we need to include not only men, but people from all sides of the political spectrum. What we've seen in the US is an enormous pushback in the last year or so against DEI. We've seen less of that in the UK, but you'll know better than I that in certain states in the US now, it's illegal to consider diversity and gender lenses when investing, say, pension funds. And this is, it's being weaponized. The whole issue of gender is being weaponized politically. In my experience, I found men who are more innovative, more open-minded, more conscious, more educated, to be open to this idea of backing women, because if they have mothers who've been businesswomen or wives who are equal participants in terms of generating an income, or bright, brilliant daughters, then they already understand that engaging female talent is critical to the future
Yes.
of the planet. But sometimes I found that women are the ones who hold other women
Mhm,
back,
mhm, mhm.
particularly in some of the more conservative
Yep,
family offices. I've come across a great deal of pushback, you might say, with what I'm trying to do from women as well as men. So I do think it boils down to education for both genders. But yes, I think we
absolutely.
need everybody on board,
Everybody
regardless
on
of their
that.
gender. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Sensitizing and education is
Absolutely.
critical.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes. So that brings me back to Petia. As a marketing professional, what role do you see digital marketing playing in fostering innovation both in corporate and entrepreneurial spaces? And how can women leverage digital marketing strategies to advance their careers?
Okay, sure. So I made some bullet points for this because it's just such a wide topic and I didn't want to be like all over the
Absolutely.
place. So the first thing I would say, excuse me, I have a bit of a cold, is that the value of digital marketing, like I said in the beginning, is that you have immediate insights into data, right? So you know exactly what's going on. Marketing insights data is king, right? It can
Mhm.
help to prove a lot of points, including what we're talking about here. And so continuing to understand the analytics, to understand the data, to then move
Let
forward
me
and
interject a little bit, maybe also adding the element of AI in this.
yes, yes, that's actually one of my points. You jumped ahead of me, but we're on the same page, right? So using those marketing insights along with AI, my next point was in order to do agile marketing, right? So if the market is not responding, if a particular part of your target audience is not responding to something, you can immediately respond to that. And AI is actually one of the best responses that you can have, because as opposed to somebody running some reports and trying to figure out what's going on, the AI can then lead you in the right direction so that you can do agile marketing. Crowdsourcing and crowd creation. And this deals with ideas, it deals with partnerships. We talk a lot here on this platform about collaboration. As markets become more saturated, there's a need for new and fresh ideas and disruptive marketing, and the digital space in general is great for that. I mean, look at this platform. We're in different parts of the world, but we're here together, right? I have done business with people all over the world that I've never met in person, right? This is how we've met. We've done great projects together. And so the ability for people to collaborate on platforms and to analyze the same sort of data is there as well. I would also say building a culture of innovation and diversity, right? Like understanding the world is a vast, huge place. Everybody has something to contribute. But if you don't have access to that information, you don't know, right? And this is where a little bit of ignorance comes in. And this is why people make uninformed decisions. But if you can actually harness the power of what the digital ecosystem can provide, then we can really become a truly global economy, a borderless economy. And we're starting to see this. We still have a long way to go, but my hope, I have a 9-year-old, is that in her lifetime, right, there are going to be so many things that are going to be possible. And hopefully people will continue to see differences as opportunities to move forward instead of opportunities to divide people, which is what happens right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's interesting that because I believe in a proverb which says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go
Or go
together.
together. I love that.
Yes.
That's one of my
So,
favorite sayings.
Sophia,
Yes.
you've been very instrumental, and I think you have a lot to say regarding this space. As a leader, what opportunities do you see for women in impact-related innovation, and how can they navigate challenges and capitalize on on these opportunities based on your experience? What makes you tick?
So, in general, I think women-found businesses that are more impact focused, more sustainable, climate-related solutions, education, blockchain, fintech, these are all areas where women are excelling all over the world. And I think the field is particularly open for female founders who tackle problems that men don't understand or make them feel icky, like aspects of women health. So the femtech sector is booming globally. It's massively underinvested all over the world. And as you know, one of the biggest challenges today is getting funded, regardless of your gender. Women founders are heavily overlooked by traditional investors. And we've always received significantly less funding than male-led businesses. And I'm quite sure that others have quoted the statistics on this conference today. A couple of years ago, I invested in a girl called Sophie Smith's Nabta Health, which is a Dubai-based hybrid online and offline women's health company. And she's expanding throughout the region into Saudi Arabia and throughout North Africa and the Middle East. And she's tapping into the power of women's investor networks to get herself funded. So I set up a women's investor network a few years ago called JEDI, Gender Equity Diversity Investment. And the purpose of this network is to connect talented female founders to funders. In fact, I've just come from a meeting in Dublin with an outstanding female entrepreneur called Mary Carvajal, who's establishing a digital health passport to connect refugees and other mobile communities, including the Irish Romani community, the Gypsies, to their health records. And I've connected her to an Irish entrepreneur, a male entrepreneur actually, who did a similar startup to see how they can collaborate. So I think that collaboration and networking is one way that women can excel, and also to actively seek out female investors. Women-led venture capital firms are more than twice as likely to invest in women-led businesses. So as a female founder in a really tough fundraising environment, I would encourage you to link into women's angel networks and female-led venture capital funds like JEDI, which is we're also planning to raise a venture capital fund. It's currently
I'll
in formation.
get back to you. Hold that thought, Sophia. Because I feel Petia needs to come into this conversation in a way, and then I'll get back to you with regards to the funding. Petia, I've wondered and I've been wowed by the fact that you've been able to bridge the gap between institutions, that is organizations, that is Google, as well as and others with your stylista.
Yes.
How do you believe these partnerships and collaborations can help get businesses to the next level?
Absolutely. So that's one of the things when I also teach a college class and when my students ask things like, how do I have a successful small business? And one of the things that I usually recommend is that somewhere along the road for you to seek out a strategic partnership or opportunity with a corporate entity. Why does
Is that
this
what
work?
they call the anchor?
Yes, yes. Why does this work? For you as a small business, it kind of gives you that additional credibility, right? So if you can say that your client is Google, in my case, it was Google and Constant Contact. These are two large corporations in the digital space, digital marketing space, right? Automatically in people's minds, whether it's true or not, they assume that you definitely know what you're doing. Now, why do large corporations form relationships with, in consultants or smaller agencies like myself? It's because they understand that when it comes to certain subsets of the market, you actually have a lot of value and information that you can share with them that they may not have access to because they're this huge corporation, right? However, they are aware that there's a subset of their target audience that's the smaller business or the minority community that they may not have actual access to. However, you do because this is where you live. And so what you find is definitely a mutually beneficial sort of relationship where both parties are actually able to have discussions and share with each other. In the case of Constant Contact in Google, I mean, they definitely ask us as consultants, what are people saying about our products? Are we actually educating them in the way that we think that we're educating them? What kind of language should we be using when we speak to this specific segment of the target audience? And then, of course, for me as a small business, this is a great relationship because it's an additional form of revenue, right? That I can now generate that I can then invest in my business or, market myself. Or
So it's mutually beneficial.
So it is socially beneficial, absolutely. And so I think that as we move forward in general in the world, right, the power of your personal brand is going to become increasingly more important, right? So there was a time, like when I started my career, the dream was to go work for whoever, right? And that's all people cared about. I think there's a shift that's happened, and your personal brand is actually worth more because all of those companies are actually looking for people who are unique, who's special, right? Who bring different skills or values or insights, and they actually need you as a company of one or a small agency. And so it is really important for everybody in the marketplace to have these relationships so that you can actually come together and form solutions and address issues and move forward just as a community or in general as the world.
Thank you so much. I mean, we're running out of time, but I want to, Sophia, I would love for you to speak about funding because that's a very important role. They say money is influence at the end of the day, and people look for money, but many a time they don't know how to do it, go about it. And you have all these organizations which said that especially they think of going to DFIs, which DFIs might not be able to fund these projects. And because of that, it seems like these funds seem to appear to be phantom funds because they're not filtering through. So what's your recommendation regarding funding and businesses for these ecosystems?
Well, my recommendation for the ecosystem is that there quite simply need to be more gender lens funds. So there need to be more funds that are led by women that are investing in diverse founders. It's an incredible investment opportunity. There is far less competition for the strongest female-led businesses, and they offer great value. For those who didn't hear from previous conversations, less than 2% of venture capital funding has gone to female-led startups globally, and less than half a percent went to female founders in the Middle East and North Africa. And yet 36% of entrepreneurs in the world today are women. So the problem is systemic. It's not a lack of pipeline.
Where can they start? Where can they start?
Well, I mean, you asked about the system. So the DFIs need to back venture capital firms that have female partners. Only 11% of VC firms have got female partners. I would say that's the first thing. If you're a founder, I would say do your best to target female-led venture capital funds that you know are up and running, that are not ghost entities. And do your best to lobby the ecosystem to get more large-scale funding into VC funds that can then trickle down those startup funds to female founders, because women make really strong entrepreneurs, and when they're venture backed, they they outperform their male counterparts. They return more on capital, they're more sustainable, and they exit faster. So it's an incredibly strong investment opportunity. As a woman, what I would do, I would focus on having a business that is very strong on ESG. There's some male founders push back against the whole idea of environmental, social, and governance in their startups. The EU has recently brought in very strong ESG value chain transparency requirements. So if you want to grow your business into the EU or have an IPO in the EU or get funded by one of the DFIs in the European Union, learn about those requirements, build a high level of transparency and responsibility into your business model and measure it. And apart from anything else, it'll make it far easier for you once you reach the exit stage. You won't be playing catch up.
Yeah. What if you're not ready for the venture capital, but you're more for angel investment or private equity?
Then, private equity obviously is later stage, it's growth capital. I mean, if you're right at the startup stage, then you can network your way into one of the many accelerators that are popping up all over the world. There are many, not only in America and in Europe, the UK, but also in North Africa and the Middle East, like 500 startups. There are many Orange Ventures. It's a Dutch government-backed accelerator. There are loads of different startup hubs and accelerators. I would say get yourself into a really strong accelerator program. The IFC, the International Finance Corporation, a division of the World Bank, ran She Wins Arabia last year. They're running She Wins Climate, which is a global competition this year. Do your best to identify those competitions, those accelerators, get in on one, and then play the game like a male founder. Just because you're a woman, it doesn't qualify you for funding. So you need to be able to hit it out of the ballpark and compete on the international stage with a robust business model that can be scaled.
Thank you so much.
And I think,
yeah, ladies, thank you so much for your contributions and those gems. I mean, I've heard a lot of collaborations, being intentional about what you're doing, and I mean, going after your dreams. Petia, what would your closing remarks be regarding women entrepreneurs and diverse backgrounds who aspire to pursue a career in digital marketing?
Yes, well, for starters, you have to have a learning spirit because things are changing so rapidly, right? Learning spirit. So first of all, being aware of what's out there. I think specialization is key, right? The era of the marketing generalist is over. There's way too much going on. So exploring the various disciplines within digital marketing and then kind of like building your personal brand around one specifically. Definitely seeking mentorship. I think a lot of times, especially if you are attempting to be an entrepreneur, going out there and making costly mistakes, there's absolutely no reason for it. You just have to ask. Many times I'm surprised myself when I reach out to people and they're like, oh, yes, 5-minute coffee, sure. Just be specific in what you're asking me. People, especially women, want to help you. That's one of our superpowers. We really like to build a community. And then absolutely, just going out there and getting into it. A lot of times, showing up. I think a lot of times we have these voices in our heads that prevent us from moving forward, right? Men don't do that. Whether they know what they're doing or not, they're like talking about things. And so, there are things that we can borrow from each other, both of the sexes. We don't constantly have to be at war. And that's something that I think women need to be a lot more aggressive, right, in their approach and believe in themselves more, right? And even if you don't know something, you can learn it, right? So just getting out there, showing up is half of the battle, and then of course building a really strong community. And this community can be men and women of people who will support you and help you along your journey.
Fantastic. Yes. Wow. I like that. And Sophia, just leading up from what Petia has just talked about, what would your closing remarks regarding building a community and advising how to give women entrepreneurs looking to scale their businesses in 2024? I mean, based on the fact that how do you deal with there's a saying that with men Men could be at 40% and they don't look for the sick, and then they will figure out learning it along the way. Women, on the other hand, look for 99% perfectionism, and sometimes that might prevent us from even getting to do stuff,
To start.
Yes. Yes. So what's your take on this?
So I agree with what both you and Petya said earlier. Women undersell themselves. We need to learn to not do that. I think with the right kind of mentoring and coaching, you can learn to represent yourself in a more even playing field kind of a way. Women need to learn how to pitch. They're generally not great at pitching. Investors like to hear numbers. Women like to tell stories. So I think being trained how to present your value proposition is absolutely key. And you can do that with one of the better accelerators or venture studios. But the other thing is, as I was saying earlier, know who to target if you're looking for investment. Gender lens investing was once marginal, like impact investing, but now it's growing across all asset classes. And so for clarification, gender lens investing is an investment strategy that deliberately uses capital to address gender disparities. And as a female founder, I would say target investors that have a gender and diversity lens and aim to be very strong and very deliberate in impact and in ESG, and don't cut corners. And above all, learn how to present yourself with confidence. When I first started, I refused to do any public speaking. I mean, you couldn't have dragged me onto one of these panels. And I learned through sheer exposure how to get over my shyness and sort of self-deprecation. It's really a matter of exposure and forcing yourself to put yourself forward. And if we want to compete in what is still, unfortunately, a very male-dominated world, we have to learn to play the rules of the game and to stand up for ourselves, because no one's going to stand up for us otherwise.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, ladies. I mean, this has been a great and insightful conversation. I mean, and we still have lots of work to do, but I'm hopeful. The new buzzwords that I'm hearing, gender lens investing, and then yes, and just showing up, as Petya said, and then also making sure both women and men come to the table with regards to these conversations, because it's not one versus the other, but how can we collectively build a stronger ecosystem which benefits the greater world. And let's continue to strengthen our ecosystem. What good is it for you to grow by yourself and others are left behind? We need to build together and strengthen these ecosystems. Thank you so much, our Future Summit, and for everyone who is watching.
All right. Have a great day,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you so much, ladies. Okay, so that was our first panel for the day, the corporate innovation ecosystem of the future, the opportunity for women. You agree with me? That was an amazing discussion, and we learned so much from them. We are so grateful for our speakers, Busi Matiko, Sofaswa, and Petya Abdul-Razak, for sharing their thought leadership with us today on the amazing topic and that kind of discussion. If you follow keenly, they touch on some key elements, including funding as well, that most of us are interested in. So I'm glad that they did highlight those areas as well. But thank you so much to our panelists, and thank you to our audience for staying with us today. We'll just transition into our next keynote, but before that, we'll take a quick break before we transition into our next keynote address. Okay, welcome back. So for our next keynote, we have Angela Lowe, who will be giving us a brief keynote address. But before she comes on, I'll just give a brief intro about our speaker, Angela. So Angela Lowe, she serves as a senior advisor for women political leaders, WPL, and she leverages nearly 10 years of experience as a community engagement strategic impact specialist. Um, she's committed to fostering intersectional diversity, equity, and inclusion. Angela focuses on initiating projects for positive social change on a global scale. Her expertise lies in building cross-cultural partnerships and strategically engaging diverse stakeholders to drive collective impact. With a particular emphasis on gender equality, Angela champions the advancement of women in leadership roles through her work with women political leaders. In this capacity, she collaborates closely with women political leaders and she amplifies their voices in decision-making processes. Angela's efforts have actively supported the crucial goal of increasing women's representation in politics, viewing it as an essential for advancing gender equality, particularly the Sustainable Development Goal 5, and positively impacting other Sustainable Development Goals as well. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming our speaker, Angela, to the stage today. Welcome, Angela.
Hello, everyone, dear all. Thank you so much. Before I begin, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to the organizers of the Her Future Summit for providing this invaluable platform for us today. Thank you for recognizing the importance of addressing such a critical issue. As we navigate through the complexities of our rapidly changing society, one stark reality stares us in the face: the glaring underrepresentation of women in positions of power and decision-making. Despite significant strides in political participation since the latter half of the 20th century, progress has been uneven and agonizingly slow. In 2023, men still occupied over 73% of parliamentary seats and 77% of ministerial positions globally. Moreover, less than 10% of heads of state or government were women. These figures underscore a stark reality. Our world still reflects deeply entrenched power imbalances that perpetuate inequality. Structural barriers, entrenched social norms, and pervasive violence continue to undermine women's participation in politics. Women are underrepresented in political parties, in elected positions, and even as voters. As high-profile elections unfold worldwide, with an estimated of 1.6 billion people set to cast their votes this year, we must seize this moment. It's a moment that demands collective attention, action, and unwavering commitment to democracy. We must challenge the status quo, dismantle the barriers that impede progress, and demand nothing less than full and equal representation in our political institutions. Representation matters. It matters who sits at the table where decisions are being made, who shapes legislation, who determines policies that impact the lives of millions. The case for women's leadership is not just a moral imperative, it's a strategic necessity. Women Political Leaders has conducted groundbreaking research that illustrates the correlation between greater female representation in politics and positive policy outcomes. When women are empowered to participate fully in the political process, we see tangible changes, from the enactment of laws that promote gender equality to policies that address pressing societal issues with greater sensitivity and effectiveness. In short, women's leadership isn't just good for women, it's good for everyone. In the words of Michelle Bachelet, if one woman goes into politics, it changes the woman. But if many women go into politics, it changes politics. And so my call to action today is a clear one. Let us champion the cause of women in politics, vital contributors to the democratic landscape. This collective action requires the whole of society, including men, who must play a crucial role as allies in promoting and supporting parity. This change cannot happen without them. Together, let us forge a future where women's leadership transforms the very fabric of our democracies. Let us build a world in which the potential of half the population is fully realized, a world where the presence of women in decision-making bodies is no longer a question, but a certainty. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Angela, for that illuminating speech. It was a real pleasure having you on the summit this year. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Good luck with everything, and together we can move mountains. So, wishing the whole community and everyone watching not to be discouraged and champion women and vote for women and run in elections.
Thank you so much. So that was our keynote speaker. We'll now transition to our second panel for the day. Our second panel for the day is the Digital Cooperation and Investment Ecosystem of the Future panel. We have three sets of amazing ladies to take us through this discussion. But before they come in, we would welcome them shortly. But before they do, we'll take a brief 30-second break to grab some water, check your notes, revise your notes as well. I know most of you are taking notes as well. If you do have questions, remember to leave them in the chat feed as well so that the speakers could be able to address them when they do come on. So a brief promo transition over the years from the first edition in 2019 till now. Then the second panel will come on. Okay, welcome back from that break. So our second panel for the day is the Digital Cooperation and Investment Ecosystem of the Future. To take us through this panel, we have Jennifer Graft Nelson, who is she is a development professional with about 6 years of experience in leading the initiation and implementation of programs and projects that promote the well-being of persons with disabilities and girls as well. Having founded the Organization for Inclusion and Empowerment, OFI, she leads a team that runs tech trainings for students with disabilities to support their education and transition to employment. She currently works with Comfort as the Kama Talent and Engagement Officer, where she collaborates to girls to get access to education. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome Jennifer de Graaf to moderate our second panel for the day. Welcome, Jennifer. We're really glad to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here today and for the role I am playing. Thank you for that warm introduction. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the panel session 2 of the 6th Annual Her Future Summit 2024. And as Daniel said, the topic for this panel session is the Digital Cooperation and Investment Ecosystem of the Future. And in this session, speakers will share their career experiences in diversity roles, their tech business experience in selecting top investment opportunities, and advice they have for women entrepreneurs of diverse backgrounds to navigate today's landscape. We would also explore limitless possibilities of emerging technologies in empowering women in the digital era. And as Tino said, my name is Jennifer Dugrafton-Ninson. I am a social inclusion advocate, and I would be moderating this conversation. The panelists I have for this session are Leah Wilson Moore, who is the Director for Emerging Technologies and Special Experiences. We also have Dr. Shruti Shankar Kaur, who is the founder of Radu. Hello, Dr. Shruti and Leah, you're welcome.
Hi,
Hello.
It's great to have you on this conversation.
nice to
Thank
meet you.
you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we'll just jump right on straight into the session and have the conversation that has we have been anticipating for some time. Um, let's start with your introductions. Tell us about yourself and what brought you to what you do and where you are now. Let's start with Leah.
Hi, thank you for having me. Yes, I actually, my background really is in experience design. I've been doing that, gosh, for over 15 years, I think closer to 20. We won't tell my age on that one, but experience design is really what anchored me. And I would say really systems thinking. I started out working in production and manufacturing, and seeing great efficiencies in how systems and planning were done, and just wanting to find ways to work and be more organized. That transitioned in years into the digital space. I've worked in startup, I've worked in fintech, um, retail, e-commerce, and now I find myself here at Merkle, which is a media agency, and I am within the Emerging Experiences org.
Great. Great. It tells us that it is very normal to transition from different backgrounds into what we aspire for. That is great to hear. Dr. Shruti, could you tell us about yourself and what has brought you to what you do now?
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. And I would like to thank Her Future Summit for this amazing platform and opportunity. I'm Dr. Shruti Shankar Gaur. My PhD is in inclusive education, and it was during my research days that I, s- I stumbled upon a problem, and for me, and that was the birth of Redu, because for me, Redu is a personal quest. So while I was doing my PhD, I was conducting a lot of workshops with in-service teachers on, for capacity building regarding inclusion and diversity in inclusive education space. And I realized that, however, cognitively the teachers, they were understanding inclusion and diversity, but the cultural training was the one that was well inbuilt their core belief, and that was just not allowing them to move ahead. For example, if cognitively teachers understood that disability is just a impairment at the physical level, but their cultural training maybe had taught them that disability is a social curse or a previous birth curse, at least in our society. That now, despite understanding that disability is just a physical impairment, the social stigma, the social cultural training was not allowing them to embrace inclusion fully. And as a researcher, I had this quest that, okay, why can't we meet another human as human without labels? Why can't we just why do we see ourselves that he's a boy, she's a girl, old, young, further nationality, this religion, this language? Why are we always culturally blinded? And that is the birth of Redu, because it's a personal quest to create a world of inclusion and diversity using education as a tool. And the easiest way that we found was to work with children, because it's difficult to untrain ourselves, UI and everyone here. It's easy to work with children who are naturally, inclusive by nature, who naturally love beyond any label. They haven't learned that labeling, so it was easy for them, and that's what we do. We create literature, we participate in children's theater. We have our collaborators with Story Kibori. Then we do work with schools, and then we have collaborated in Dubai-based organization, Yes for Us. So we are just building a platform, an ambience to nurture future generation and build a world where inclusion and diversity are celebrated. Thank you.
Great. And with the story that you had already shared with us about inclusion and the great things you're doing, could you tell us about your experiences, how your journey has been like as the founder of Radio, particularly emphasizing on the initiatives or projects that are aimed at promoting diversity and inclusion within the tech and investment sectors?
Yeah, so I think technology is a big disruptor, and when I say that technology has the power to disrupt every social fabric. Like my fight is with the social fabric, and I think technology is my ally in there. And it's a great time because it's a great time to be alive, because using technology, and technology needs minimum investment. For example, we run our young editors program, which is a global program for children. And sorry, we just need a very basic investment for that, on the back at the back end, to just run that. And having said that, I have just been to Davos few months back at the WEF week, and I realized that women are slaying technology. They are the ones who are just, I met so many incredible women who were CEOs, CFOs, COOs, and I was like, oh my god, we are actually slaying it. It's just that we need to be financially educated. That's the first foremost thing that each of us, man or women, we must know. And that using that financial education with merging it with technology, I think that that's a great space to be in. And you can have any idea if you just know how to monetize that. Just that helps, so that's my understanding of merging technology in investment space.
Indeed, technology makes a difference, and especially in the field of disability, it makes a lot of things possible for individuals with disabilities. So yes, it's good news to be alive truly within this period where there is a lot of technological advancement. Thank you very much for that, Dr. Shruti. Leah,
Yeah.
we would
So
like to also hear about your journey and experiences as the Director of Emerging Technologies.
yeah, it's an interesting question in terms of, like initiatives directly aimed at diversity and inclusion. I think at least consciously as an organization itself, such specific initiatives are kind of supported by our leaders in DEI. However, for me, I personally think about ways I can advocate for and activate such values in a tangible way in my professional environment. There are a few ways I do that. The first is I actively nurture young designers in very intentional ways. I find myself coaching young women to interact with these new tools so that they can join the conversation about the impact they have on their communities, as well as to empower them to gain access to skills that can keep them viable and relevant in a rapidly changing job market. I also engage in direct and tough conversations with leadership about impediments I observe to creating safe and inclusive spaces, so that not only as an organization we are reinforcing our values, but we ensure that our work environments are not only conducive to productivity, but also bolster creativity, curiosity, and excellence. Um, Now, when it comes to the times I'm resourced to production work, if there is a gap related to accessibility for digital work, everyone from the client to our development team is pretty much an advocate for striving to meet WCAG conformance. However, it's the production work that exceeds beyond the boundaries of digital channels where I find my advocacy to be the most meaningful. I think too often in the tech space, we are often thinking about accessibility related to like color contrast or alt text or assistive devices. But accessibility and inclusion is also about making sure that event spaces have aisles wide enough for wheelchairs, or that there are gender neutral bathrooms, or that campaign experiences that activate new tech are targeted at specific audiences, are mindful of the affordability of that new tech for that audience. So for me, it's also about extending the application of DEI concepts for our clients so that they understand that it's about the entire omnichannel customer experience, and being consistent to those values. Lastly, as my org begins to build up a portfolio of AI and emerging tech products, I'm uniquely positioned to function in the space of product strategy. Now, what that means for me in terms of my responsibility to upholding DI values is to think about how at the very outset we can integrate accessibility in the design and development process, as well as ensuring we are anchored in an ethical framework. And so the main way that I've done that is, to just kind of anchor ourselves in agile methodology. And I've set up kind of like a custom Kanban framework so that when we are creating a new product program, we've set up this board and we have these different product part templates that are right in front of us and that force us to continue to ask the question, is there an accessibility feature needed here? Or there is this feature, let's take a look. Let's bring in Phil from, who's our humane design advocate, to take a look at this. Are there any questions that we need to be asking? And he may not know, related to the technology itself, what needs to happen in terms of a tangible feature set, but he's going to ask the question that needs to be asked, amongst all of us, in terms of what this work is and how it impacts customer. And then it'll be my responsibility and anybody else to say, okay, he's asking this question, how might we apply that thinking and that ethical responsibility to this feature set so that it's tangible and that it also becomes a standard for us as an organization and our product portfolio.
Intentionality about creating accessible environments for people across different characteristics is very key. And as I really agree with you that it's not enough to just look at color contracts and all that and not pay attention to especially accessible washrooms and affordability of the assistive devices that are being produced, that are coming out, that is supposed to help them make their lives better. I'd like us to look at, do you believe, or how do you believe that emerging technologies can empower women? Do you think they really can empower women? And in this era we are in, and what opportunities are available for women entrepreneurs from diverse backgrounds, including persons, women with disabilities, to leverage these technologies?
I personally go out of my way to share and demonstrate to my community how AI tools specifically can kind of speed up productivity. This directly relates to entrepreneurial pursuits because people are wearing so many hats. And so it's inevitable that things are going to be overlooked, things that are important, or things simply won't even be considered. And so I encourage exploration in order to free themselves up from tasks that can be delegated to an efficient tool, and to create systems with optimization, with automations to optimize these processes. And then when I'm collaborating with tech enthusiasts, I encourage unconventional use and experimentation with documentation so that we can explore the boundaries of the tools, provide feedback, or even conceptualize on other solutions. So I guess to summarize, with caution, and I emphasize with caution, right? Because all of this is new. And I know, especially in this space, we are very mindful of the impact, the negative impact that these tools have on our communities. And so with caution, there is a lot of opportunity to kind of eliminate busy work, collaborate, and conceptualize so that you can monetize as an entrepreneur.
Great, great. Thank you for that, Leah. And let me move to Dr. Shruti. Looking at your background as an individual very interested in inclusive education and empowerment of individuals with disabilities, how do you believe that emerging technologies can be harnessed to empower women in the digital era? And what opportunities do you foresee for women entrepreneurs from diverse backgrounds in this regard?
Well, my take and my experiences taught me that we have to accept few things. First thing is that accessibility, suppose funding accessibility as an entrepreneur, it's more challenging to women entrepreneurs. We have to prove more credibility to investors in order to get some investment. That's hard reality that we face. And of course, we don't have golf meetings as networking tool. That's hard reality. Yeah. So for me, in this technology era, how I see things is that first and foremost, we have to empower ourselves and each one of us. So when a women, like the last keynote speaker, I just attended the session, Jennifer said that each women representation matters. So the moment each one of us step up, we pave the road ahead for many other women around us, knowingly or unknowingly, directly or indirectly. Investment in technology is a space where yet we are to make a dent. That's the easiest way, that answer that I can give you is that we need more women investors out there who can just, we need that sisterhood community who can be there for each other. So let's build that. Let's, you and I, everyone out here, Leah, Jennifer, and Shruti, let's build that sisterhood community of, investment opportunities for each other and for women out there. So that's the first step for me. And then as a women, I think we need to, what I said earlier, we need to learn financial literacy. We need to be financially literate. We need to how to learn how to pitch to, what are the funding options. So important as to scale up yourself, upscale. Then only you can, each one of us, we are capable human beings. It doesn't matter we are man or women, but we are equally capable. And as capable human beings, if we work on ourselves and upscale ourselves, I think then investment opportunities do open. So from my experience, I started as a bootstrapping model. Redu started as a bootstrapping model with the help of my family and few friends. And as an entrepreneur, I can vouch it that you cannot move ahead if you don't have a cushion, that is a support system, strong, solid enough, be it of your she walls, I say, or be it family, but you need that cushion support. So women need women more in today's investment and technology era than ever, to move ahead. And I think this has been the case ever since. That's why women before us have done that. We do our work, and that's how we pass on a better, beautiful, more equal world to the next generation.
Great. Having talked about support systems for women, could we look at what common challenges are even available, or what common challenges exist that have become obstacles that women entrepreneurs from diverse backgrounds might be facing when seeking these investments for their ventures, and how can they effectively overcome these challenges?
I think I have answered that by saying, telling that, accessibility to funding. Yes, there is a challenge. I have met so many investors. There was a point when I was looking to scale up Redu to the next level, and I needed investment. And I was talking to multiple investors. I was pitching them hard, everything, and everything boiled down to, yours is a social something, with a social cause. So you come under CSR category. If it had been a case that you were creating an app, you were doing a technology era, we would have happily funded because you have a very solid business plan. I'm sure that it was very hard for me to just take that feedback, because I believe that technology is our ally. Technology is, we are living in a technology era, but eventually we all are humans, right? So for me, yes, accessibility to funding, definitely there's an issue. Credibility as a women entrepreneur, when you start out, you have to prove yourself more than the man besides you. That's a hard fact. We accept it or not. Yes, we have to. And third, I feel that we need more sisterhood. Networking is something that, boardrooms and men easily network. They network all day long. And what we do as women is we do our work, shut up our laptop, and just go back, look after children, look after our family, and everything. We don't network that much. So I feel that as women, we need to network more. We need to build a community. Like, this is like Her Future Summit is an amazing platform, is an amazing opportunity for us all to collaborate, to partner, to know each other, to just stand for each other, to be the shoulder of giants for next generation. So yeah, for me, that's what are the three major issues that we face. And the solution is only one, that step up, get up, just work, and learn everything out there in the sun. upskill yourself so much so that you know people come and give you on the platter. Yes, you deserve it. So be that deserving candidate, even for investors.
Great, 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 great. Accessibility to funding as a challenge, and then how women have to fight for credibility to be able to get access to opportunities that are even available. Aside these points that Dr. Shruti has mentioned, Leah, in your experience, what are some of the challenges or barriers that women are facing in seeking investment, and how can they overcome these challenges?
I personally have no experience with seeking funding, but I think many of us are aware that women and people of color face far more barriers to investment than our whiter male counterparts. Though I do think I can offer advice related to this topic, just based on my experience creating products for different industries. Speaking again to the empowerment these new tech tools provide underserved communities, mainly being reducing costs and therefore the necessary investment. So these tools allow for individuals to achieve more at an exponentially greater speed. Use that to go as far as you can without the need for as much capital. And so what's interesting about what Dr. Shuti said, was men get out there and they network and women work. And I'm like, well, that is very, very, very true, right? Like we're used to like hands to the keyboard, but we can also use that as our superpower, because now I'm sure many of us can relate to feeling like, I know I personally am like, if I just could clone myself and make another me. Now, with caution, you can use these tools and have maybe a mini you and you know what I mean, several mini yous that are delegated to handle a lot of tasks that you would be trying to get funding for, to write a business plan, to do a graphic, image, to do some posts, set up systems and automate these things so that you're not asking for as much money. And I think something else that you said, Dr. Shudu, which I love, is like, sisterhood is important. And I think more for anybody, the biggest thing I can say is just ask for help. And that's really in any scenario. People are very hard to ask for. It's very hard for people to ask for help. And even if it's your friend, maybe you're not asking for money, but maybe your friend is really creative and they take really good pictures. And maybe you can use that, feed that into, Mid-Journey and merge some images of theirs to it and create something, one that's empowered them creatively, but it's also empowered you. You've collaborated, you've eliminated a cost, and now you may even have a shareholder, right? And so I think more than anything is continue to use the superpower of us being, like very capable and multitasking, use it to our benefit. And absolutely ask your sister, ask your mom, ask anybody who is willing to help, ask your community to have your back, because they will.
Great. We've already gone into the solutions and the advice we're giving to young women. But I'm still going to ask if there are any more advice that you think that would help women entrepreneurs to navigate today's investment landscape, especially with emerging technologies. Back to you again, Leah. If there are any more advice outside asking for help, collaborating, learning, upskilling. Are there any more that women could do?
Gosh, yeah, I can't say it enough. Explore these tools and see how far they can get you and how fast. I don't think people will feel that they need as much investment once they've activated these tools within their workflow. So be brave and be curious.
Be curious. Great. And Dr. Shruti, what advice do you also have to offer to women entrepreneurs who are navigating today's investment landscape, especially looking at the
I would say that to every women entrepreneur, from my own experience, that there is a lot of noise out there in the world.
emerging
Um, so, for example, I face a challenge that my team tells me that you are not on social media. You should come more on social media. They're after my life, and I tell them, look, that doesn't come naturally to me. So you have to cut the noise. You have to sit with yourself, whatever you are doing, whatever you plan to do. You sit with yourself, just understand who you are. You should know yourself, that you should know this is who I am, this is who I want to be. And I tell you, once you know yourself, like Pythagoras said that if you know yourself, you know thyself, you know the universe. So if you know thyself, you will be very focused, you will be narrow, and that focus will bring more results. If you are more open, everyone will come and tell you hundreds of things. and you will digress from your path. So that's my personal experience. I will just share with every women entrepreneur out there. Second is, we are known, and we are like, I see that as a superpower. That is, we are more empathetic, we are more resilient, we are more caring. Take it as your superpower. In business world, anything, if it ever becomes transactional, before that it has to be relational. So build those relationships. And whenever you are doing business, I read that, and it's very close to my heart. I read that in the Science of Getting Rich, that if you are bound to take 10 rupees for a service from someone, give it back, give the work at least 20 rupees back. So add more value to the table, because that brings reoccurring customers. Whatever your profile, whatever your area is, that brings reoccurring customers back to you, because you will be standing as an authentic person who is not just there for business, for profit, and for everything, who is there to give more. The more, so I think these are basics that each one of us, and we all as women have them naturally. So we just need to be aware of them. And one more thing that I see a lot is that, um, business world is considered to be a man's world, and as women we are, we feel that, oh, we have to conquer this man's world, so we have to become a man or something like that. For me personally, own your femininity. That's a beautiful gift. Stand up there as a women, as a women of integrity, character, beauty, feminism, sensuality. Just own it completely and just be there. So be a business woman. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I would just my from my personal experience, I would like to share with everyone.
Great, great. Thank you very much for the great insights that you have shared. And I have made lots of notes. I hope that our audience listening on YouTube are also learning a lot, just like I am, and have picked a lot of lessons that would apply to them, especially when it comes to navigating the digital era that we are in, and making sure that we are taking advantage of all the opportunities that are coming in this space. Thank you very much for all that you have shared. In summary, I liked how you touched on Dr. Shuti, how you touched on inclusion, and Leah as well, bringing it down to the how we are able to assess our immediate environment, where there are things that we mostly would not pay attention to. And especially in times where people are trying to pay attention to inclusion, they would put up structures before they would think that, oh, there are other people that may not be able to access these facilities, and now what is the way we should go, instead of including them at the beginning of the designing process or the thinking or the planning phase. And yes, when we design with inclusion in mind, everyone benefits. In the end, no one bargains to be a person with a disability or to be on the side of the minority. It just happens to everyone. And so, if we are intentional about that, then life can really, really get better. Thank you once again for sharing, and we bring the conversation to a close. It was quite a brief yet insightful one. Thank you, Dr. Shruti. Thank you, Leah, for your time and the insight.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for
My name
having us. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. My name once again is Jennifer Jigaftinenson. I have been your moderator on the second panel session of the Health Future Summit 2024. The session on the session, Digital Cooperation and Investment Ecosystem of the Future, where our speakers, Leah Wilson Moore and Dr. Shruti Shankar, shared their experiences in their career in diversity roles and their tech businesses. Also shared some advice for women and how they can stand out and do well in their own businesses. Please stay on as I hand over to Stenel to continue with the program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you, Jennifer, Leah, and Dr. Shruti for your amazing insights. It was a real pleasure listening to you and having you on this session today. Thank you so much, and do enjoy the rest of your day.
You as well.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
So that was our second panel for the day in the digital cooperation and investment ecosystem of the future. This panel was led by our moderator, Jennifer de Benson, and we had panelists Leah Wilsomo and Dr. Shruti Shankar all on that panel. We'll now transition to we've gotten to the most important part of today's session, where we'll have our special guest of honor come on today to share her keynote remarks. This we have an ambassador here to give her special guest remarks, headline keynote remarks for this 6th annual edition, and we are really pleased to have her on this session today. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my utmost pleasure to welcome our headline keynote for this year's Hair Future Summit in the person of Her Excellency Marie Helen Lumumba Matipu. She is the Ambassador Extraordinaire and Plenipotentiary of the Democratic Republic of Congo to the United States of America. Prior to this role, she's held various significant positions as a career diplomat and an international civil servant, including Ambassador of the Republic of Congo to Gabon, the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, and Small-Scale Enterprises, Crafts in the Democratic Republic of Congo. She's also been Director of External Relations and Governance of the World Health Organization. Ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome our special guest of honor, Her Excellency, the Ambassador of the Democratic Republic of Congo to the United States, Her Excellency Marie Helen Matipu.
We hear me?
Welcome, Your Excellency. It's a real pleasure to have you here today.
For invite. And I want to start my speech by thanking all the previous speakers, because when I received the invitation, I was wondering, why should I be invited in such forum? Since I treat myself as an alphabet of modern times. I grew up without computer, without telephone, so the digital world is something new to me, which I have to learn at my adult life. So I want to thank all those ladies. They all were entrepreneurs, which I'm not. I spent my life trying to connect people, trying to understand what was happening in the world, trying to see what I could pick here and there so I can help my country. So thank you to everyone. The discussion has been very, very interesting for me. I've learned a lot of things, but as the subject of the day, I think that you have to understand that I'm from a country with a lot of challenges. We have a big country, more than 2 million square kilometers, more than 100 million people, a very young population, more than 50% of our population are young. But our education system was not oriented for business. We were oriented to be civil servants. So today, when we are talking new technology, we are very, very behind reality. So we have to start by reviewing our all education system to move to technical and scientific courses, because most of the people were even doing philosophy, letters, laws, economy, but very, very few scientific people. So we are now in a world where the digital is governing everything. Although we are a country with all the critical mineral you need to do what even you did today to have this meeting, but we are not using it for our benefit. So I came to this conference more to listen, more to learn, and see what kind of partnership we can build with different partners, with different speakers, with different organizations who spoke today. So as I told you, we have a lot of challenge. Take energy. Less than 20% of our population can benefit from energy. We have a big infrastructure problem. We have no financial institution. So I listened to most of the speaker talking about investment. How can you invest when you don't have financial independence? Most of banks are commercial banks, and you cannot develop economy with commercial banks because the rate of interest are too high. Then, as you can see, I think I'm not where I should be today, but I want to thank the organizer because I learned a lot, and I want to see how we can build partnership to improve the way we are doing things. The first speaker who spoke, Arlette, talked about skill development. And I think this is what we need the most in DRC. We really need skill development. And we also need to accelerate the approach of our development, as she so rightly said. But with what is happening today in my country, we have no peace, we have no security. I wonder how we're going to achieve all this development. So all your advice, all what you can tell us to improve the situation are welcome. And most of you also are invited. You are all invited to come to DRC. If you want to do business, we're a country of opportunities. Everything needs to be done because 30 years of war have destroyed everything. So if you want to help us with your technology, with your knowledge, with investment, you are welcome. I think for the time being, that's all what I can say. So I'm here more to listen, more to learn, and to wait for your comments and advice so we can go forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. I do admire your spirit of learning because we saw you joining quite early and then taking notes, listening to other speakers as well. And we are really grateful that you made time out of your busy schedule to join us for the summit this year. And I believe all those who can help on the call today will continue to reach out to you for updates and also for support in future as well. And also we are available for any insights that you may want from us in terms of for technological advancement in various areas as well. Like you highlighted, most of the speakers here highlighted that for their entrepreneurial journey as well as their technological and digital advancement as well. That it's something that we could all learn from, and I'm happy that we're able to learn from that as well. We are really thankful for your time and your consideration for joining us for this year's summit. It was a real pleasure having you on the summit this year. Thank you so much.
And thank you to you for the invitation. And I'm waiting for the concrete proposal.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So that was His Excellency, the Ambassador for the Democratic Republic of Congo to the United States, giving our headline keynote address for this year's summit. It was a real pleasure having her on. That was our special guest of honor. We'll now take a message from one of our return speakers, Ryan Fall, and I'm sure it would excite most of you from our returning speakers. He couldn't join us here live, but he sent in a message for us. So we'll take a message from Ryan at this point before we round up with the final sessions that we do have.
Ahoy, everybody. I'm excited to be here. And instead of a presentation with a bunch Ahoy, everybody. I'm excited to be here. And instead of a presentation with a bunch of slides, I'm going to speak to you from the heart. And as I thought about what to share, I'm thinking about Her Future Summit. And this being the 6th year, how cool is that? But whether you're a female or male or however you identify, life presents challenges, and it's about how you overcome them. And I feel like I figured out something that sort of works. So I want to share that with you, and hopefully it can inspire you to help you build better goals, help you to build your brand, and help you to build better relationships. You ever had that feeling when you have to make a choice, and that choice could sort of totally change the way that you are, change who you are, change what you're up to? Well, I remember there's been a few moments in my life when I've had that feeling. One in particular, I was standing on the cold, damp grass, and it was early morning. And I was holding an envelope standing in front of a mailbox. And the envelope, it looked like a normal envelope, but it was heavy. And it was heavy because it had the weight of 1,000 sleepless nights. I knew what I needed to do. I needed to put this envelope into the mailbox, but it was not an easy thing to do. I remember when I sealed the envelope, those seals were silent witnesses to my fears, to my trepidation, and ultimately to the choice that I had to make. And so I remember taking a deep breath, and I exhaled all of my goals, all of my fears, and I slowly moved the envelope closer into the mailbox. And at that moment, it seemed like everything went silent, except for the rustling of leaves. And I thought to myself that nature must be watching to see if I had the courage to make the decision. And I did. So I put the envelope in and I let go. I remember hearing the distinct thunk as the envelope hit the bottom of the mailbox, and it reverberated out, and I could hear in my bones that echo. And it was a close to a certain chapter of my life. And it felt like finality, like I finally had made that decision. It was with a heavy heart that I let go, but I knew that I needed to. So days turned into weeks, and a couple weeks later, I get a knock on the door. It takes me a second to get to the door, so when I get out there, nobody's there, and I look on the doormat, and there's a suspiciously looking envelope. I pick up the envelope, and it looks very similar, and I turn it over, and on it, it says, "Return to sender. Insufficient postage by 32 cents." I started laughing. I couldn't help it, but I wasn't laughing because it was funny. I was laughing because it was so human. And here I am holding onto this envelope, and I just want to make sure. So I undo the peels and I open it up, and sure enough, it's mine. It's my bankruptcy paperwork, and it's ready to be filed with the state. Just there mocking me. I'm holding in my hands a manifestation of my failure. The proof is in the paperwork. And the irony was not lost in the reality that I had failed to send it in to where it needed to go. And I think that's the moment that the envelope became a little lighter. And for the first time, I thought of this major failure, which I had failed to even accomplish to get in. Maybe it wasn't the end, but another opportunity to start again. And holding my unfiled bankruptcy paperwork in hand, I think that was the first time that I really came to terms with the fact that I really sucked at managing my personal finances. And I also really, I think, came to terms with the fact that I really sucked at being an entrepreneur. I mean, here I was, had failed big time. But it kind of was inspiring because admitting my shortcomings and admitting to myself that I really didn't do the right things to get to where I wanted to go, I was able to embrace the suck and start by being sort of good. And I think that is what helped me to get sort of better and eventually sort of good at my finances. And it's been over a decade since that envelope got returned to me. But I'm happy to share that in 2023, I didn't owe any taxes. Now, I'm not amazing when it comes to personal finances, but I'm good. And I think the only reason I'm good is because I was not good and I had to sort of get better. And what's funny about the story of financial turmoil actually sort of reminds me of a personal branding struggle. You see, I felt like I had some stories to share, some experiences that I feel like other people would find value from. And I thought that I had ideas worth spreading. So I was working on being a public speaker, was going to Toastmasters. I thought I was good. Well, I thought I was great. Maybe the ego was there, and I was confident that the TEDx stage would want to hear my story. Now, if you're not familiar with TEDx is a platform where speakers speak about an idea that's worth spreading. And it's not easy to get to the TEDx stage. And when you do, it's a great personal brand builder. And this is something that I really wanted. So I put together my idea, I submitted it to a TEDx application, to a TEDx organization. And I anticipated a positive response. But no, I got rejected. They said, no, thanks. And then I tried to apply to a different TEDx organization. And then they said, no, thanks. And I tried the third time. Third time's a charm, right? So I sent in another application to a different TEDx organization. And then they say, no, thanks, rejected. And then I tried a fourth application, fifth application, sixth application, all denied, denied, denied. And then the seventh application, I got denied too. And I thought to myself, maybe I'm not as good as I think. Maybe my story isn't as good as I think. Maybe I need to embrace the suck and look at these rejections as a place to start again. And so I refined my message and I submitted another TEDx talk. Number 8, they said no. Another organization. Number 9, they said no. Number 10, I was like, let's do it. This is my story. I'm getting better. No, declined again. And then we're looking at almost 2 years into this process of trying to get on the TEDx stage. But each application that got denied let me know that I wasn't good enough. So I submitted again. Number 11, denied. Number 12, denied. Number 13, denied. Just like shots. But I kept going and I submitted one more time, my 14th time. And you know what? This time, TEDx UNLV said, we like it. We'd like you to come on our TEDx stage. So after 2.5 years and 14 different application submissions and 13 denials, I finally got to my TEDx stage. And I'll never forget, I was thinking to myself, success. And then I heard myself say, success. And I heard the word suck, success. I thought to myself, the only reason why I'm here and I have this success is because I had embraced the suck. And I was sort of good until I was a little bit better. And then eventually I was good enough. And I would not have thought that this concept of being sort of good would help me with one of the biggest problems that I've faced in my life so far. Planning the perfect wedding. Now, when I say planning the perfect wedding, I mean working with my wife to see what her vision is and helping to fulfill that. So she had an idea of this magical wedding in the hills in a very secluded environment with all of our family and friends. We searched high and low and we found the spot. It was tucked away in the hills. It had this great architecture, these great little scenes, this great flow for the wedding, could hold all kinds of people. And it had a package that included a white tiger. So we bought the package with the white tiger and we knew that we would have the perfect wedding. That is until the pandemic started to creep across the globe. And our wedding plans got thwarted. We got an email from the location and they said, you know what? Due to this COVID thing, we're going to have to indefinitely postpone your wedding date. So we were bummed. And then we got an email about a month later that said, I'm so sorry, we're going out of business and we are taking your fat deposit with us. No! I tried so hard to get our deposit back and it did not happen. So here's my wife and I. We now have no venue, we have no wedding date, and we have no money. So we did what we could do. We looked at what we had. And one thing we had was our 1977 Cal 34 sailboat that was in sort of working order. So I called up some mechanics and my goal was to get the boat ship shape because our idea was, why don't we go on the sailboat, sail over to Catalina and just get married by ourselves? Maybe this is what it was meant to be. But no mechanics would come and fix the boat. It was a pandemic. Nobody would come and fix it. And so I tried to see if the boat would work, and she sort of did, and then she sort of started overheating, and then she sort of broke down completely. The engine would not work. It was a mess. So what I had no choice to do was look at something that I was not good at. I sort of sucked at working on engines. I had never done this before. But I used YouTube as my tutor. I called some of my mechanically inclined friends to see if they could help me with some questions. And I used the 1977 hand-typed manual that was in a 3-ring binder, page by page, sort of taking a piece of the engine apart, sort of taking another piece of the engine apart, and figuring out how to sort of make it work. Now, I made a funny name for this little side gig. I called it Ginger Marine. And my tagline was, I guarantee to take it apart, but I don't guarantee to make it start. And so I took it apart and I put it back together piece by piece, sort of. And then when the moment came for me to turn the ignition to see if it all worked, and the engine worked, and she fired up, and she sort of worked, and the wedding was saved. So my wife and I loaded up the boat with a bunch of flowers. We sailed over to Catalina Island, and we got married right there on this beach. I remember standing there. It was just 5 people total in the wedding, 2 witnesses, person who married us, and ourselves. And I was standing right here on this deck right here, surrounded by the ocean, surrounded by bingo, surrounded by my new wife. And I couldn't help but think to myself, we sort of made it. And there's no way that we would have made it there if I just gave up, and if not being good at working on the engine was enough to stop me. So what is my financial ruin? What is me speaking on the TEDx stage? And what does a wedding on an island have to do with you? Well, I guarantee in your future, you're going to run into struggles. You're going to run into things that go wrong. But you don't have to go through financial turmoil. You don't have to spend 2.5 years chasing after getting on a TEDx stage. And you don't have to fix a sailboat and go sail and get married on an island to learn the lessons that I did. And what I've learned is that you got to embrace the suck. You got to be okay with not being good. You got to be okay with being sort of good so that you get better, so eventually you get good, and then maybe you'll find your success. Because every good story starts with sorta. You've got to work through sorta to get success. And so for the challenges that you have, on the goals that you have, the things that you want to achieve, chances are you're not the best at it. But you can get sort of better and make sort of progress and eventually get to that goal that you're after. When it comes to building your brand and your personal brand, whatever your TEDx stage is, you're not going to get it the first time, maybe not even the 10th time. It might even take years. But if you sort of keep trying, it's going to sort of work out. And when it comes to personal relationships, you don't always have to be great at them, but you got to sort of try and you got to sort of keep at it. So what I want to leave you here with is the reality that every great story starts with sorta. And you got to be sort of good. You got to sort of suck. You got to be sorta to get to that success. So whether it's something that's a goal or a personal challenge or a relationship that you're working on, don't worry about being great. Don't worry about being good. Worry about being sort of good. And you continue on, and I'm excited to see what happens. That's my message here for you today. And I'm super excited for all of you to be sort of good at what you're working on so you can find your own success. Thanks so much for listening, and I'd love to connect with you. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm a big supporter of everybody here, and hopefully I will see you next year. Adios, everybody.
And as a woman, I love the fact that it is so objective in terms of, it's the numbers. So always about the scoreboard. I'm selling more things. I'm being more successful. And all the gray and the black and white is very clear there in terms of your numbers.
Now, if you know me, you know about my 313, you know about my book, Ditch the Act. And today I'm going to take little snippets and parts to make sure that you know how to best position yourself as a female and also as a male for all you males out there, but this is for the ladies, how to pitch for your career.
And whether you're following along now or you plan to begin your search later, what you will do is open a new browser tab on your device. This way you have your job search tab open in one tab and your tracker sheet, we just spoke about the tracker sheet, open in Google Sheets in your second tab. This way you can go back and forth.
Catering, tutoring, financial, and many more to flourish during the pandemic, while traditional brick and mortar establishments have struggled to survive.
I want you to know, don't give up on yourself. There are people out here like all of us who want to bring you in. We just need to know who you are, and so we can leverage your superpowers to help benefit our company.
There is no force equal to a woman determined to rise. I am powerful, and together we are unstoppable because our girls, our global girls, are our assets.
Okay, so that was a message from Ryan Folland, a returning speaker for the Hair Future Summit. So I hope you did take notes for his session as well. It's been an action-packed day, and we've heard from various speakers throughout the day, including the Excellency Ambassador for the Democratic Republic of Congo to the United States. So she said insights into what to expect from investments and technology, and eagerness to delve into investments within that technological space or technological advancements for benefit of our country as well. So we look forward to action-packed sessions from our speakers. We still have one more keynote to go before we close out for today's session, but it's been a pleasure having these amazing speakers on the call today. I do hope you've taken notes of from the sessions as well. I did enjoy the first panel discussion as well as the second one as well, but I enjoy for the discussion on corporate innovation as well, where the speakers shared their journey throughout the entrepreneurial landscape, and then also advice for those of us that want to enter into such spaces and how to deal with some challenges that may come up as well. Then for the second panel, they looked at about digital innovation as well. And it was also great insight shared by both Dr. Shruti and Leah on that panel as well, on the various advancements within the digital space that we should look out for and how to take advantage of those opportunities that will come up in such spaces. So we look forward to more discussions. Keep the discussions going in the chat feed as well. We do see your comments in the chat feed, and it inspires us to do more as well. As you notice, the speakers have been excited throughout the day, and they're excited to share their thought leadership with you throughout the day as well. It's been a pleasure coming your way with this session, and we hope that we would continue with the session. We'll continue the discussion as we do go ahead. We'll take a brief break before we transition to our next keynote. Welcome back. Do hope you enjoyed the highlights, but we would like to transition to our closing remarks and keynote remarks from our CEO, the person of Christine and team, who would give closing remarks for this sixth annual edition. You all agree with me that it's been an exciting time throughout the day. If you joined the conversation from the beginning till now, thank you for staying with us. And we are really glad to come your way with this sixth annual edition. And we are thankful to all our partners and sponsors for bringing this edition once again. So without wasting my time, I would like to welcome our CEO, Christine and team, to give her keynotes and closing remarks. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you so much. And I want to give also a warm welcome to everyone on today's session. Thank you so much for being a part of the Her Future Summit journey. And I think you could tell from the highlights there that we not only showed the 5 years of making Her Future Summit and the work that we've done across different markets to really encourage and inspire women to really be a part of this movement. But we also show you one of our first videos from our launch back in 2019 when we first started our first summit. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of what we experienced today. And then we're going to transition to our next keynote speaker who just joined us on the backstage session before we close out for the day. Now, many of you are aware for this edition for Her Future Summit, we engage a multitude of unique, dynamic speakers from different backgrounds, from the government sector, policy. We had from design, from media, from music, and culture and arts, to really give perspective on how do we look at the future of women in different industries around the world, and how can we make an impact to accelerate change and accelerate opportunity in these markets. So as we transition to the last round of speakers for today, I hope that you are inspired. I hope that you're excited for what's to come. And we hope that you take actionable steps on the insights the speakers have shared today, the feedback, all the awareness that they share with you along their career journey onto you today. So without further ado, before getting into closing remarks, I do want to give a warm welcome to our next speaker, and I'll bring Stan back onto the stage to do a warm introduction to our next speaker before we do our closing remarks. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Christine. So our next speaker is the person of Lulu Maketka, who is the founder of Ungwa Africa. She will be coming on to give her remarks, and if she's ready, Lulu, are you ready to go on? Okay, we can't see you. We don't see any visuals. Hi, Lulu.
Hello, how are you? I'm very ready. I was quite an eager beaver. I arrived. Okay. We had the wrong time zone, so
the stage is all yours.
Pardon me for that. Thank you so much. It gives me great joy to really support Christine and her amazing team on the remarkable work that they continue to do year after year, really focusing on breaking barriers and leveraging a collective of voices from across different continents, ensuring that the very essence of that which is being driven is really addressed thoroughly. So my name is Lolo. I'm based in Botswana. I run a social enterprise called Ungwa Africa. Ungwa means be fruitful, grow, prosper, multiply, fill the earth, and dominate. Yes, all those words really summed up. And this is it's intentionally an action word, because Africa is known as being the continent that talks but does not implement. We are not known for being very perpetual implementers and executors. So this is really a call, a clarion call to say, let us be known for our activity across the continent. Am I able to show some slides, or you just want I can just speak to them? I just heard about just a few. Okay, I am. Just give me a sec. Just give me a sec. But essentially, what I wanted to speak about today is what we do at UNGA Africa and how it ties in with the theme for today. So, established in 2020, we've been focusing on really addressing societal issues, but doing so in a very personable, human-centered way. So we believe in behavioral change, sustainable behavioral change. But this time around, now in our 5th year, we've decided to be more intentional in our approach. And this is where we now bring in what we call a redemptive lens. And this is more where you look at yourself as a creature of a sacred creature, let me put it that way, created in God's image. And by being created in God's image, it means you yourself are a creator. It's inherent in you. You yourself are a producer. You are a maker. So when you approach life, you approach business, knowing that you have the full capabilities of that which God has. It changes the dimension with which you show up. It changes your disposition. Earlier on, one of the speakers, one of the panel sessions, spoke about the importance of women being so confident and speaking forth and choosing the spaces and the stages that they show up in. And this is really what we do within UNGA Africa. We really work with women, with young people in Africa and the diaspora to remind them that they matter. And we do so through bespoke leadership, mentorship, and what we call lifeship initiatives. And these are really done online because the idea is to ensure that there's optimal access and ensuring that we really tap into women where they are. Seth Godin is incredible, and he speaks of when he speaks of marketing, he says meet people where they are, right? And what we do is that we work with women, with young people, we work with governments, we work with in the public sector, in the private sector, with civil society, because the collective effort is critical. Anytime there is transformation in the radar, anytime there's vision to create meaningful change, collaboration, and really strategic, sustainable partnerships are very, very important. So really we work with women and young people, like I said, from different parts of the continent. We've worked with the SADC Secretariat. We've worked with the IGAD Secretariat, which is really women in Djibouti, in South Sudan, Ethiopia, and so forth. Really in different elements. So it's really about understanding the audience and the community you work with, not coming with your skill set in your sachet, over your shoulder, but really saying, where are you? How is it that I can be of value? How can my expertise and my experience help you unlock the value that is already inside of you? Nothing is more powerful than showing somebody what they've always carried inside. But you see, when it comes to systems challenges, it's important to understand that the barriers are not always monetary. Yes, there's need for catalyzed, gender-lensed investing and accessible finance and funding towards women and youth. But also importantly is the need for quality, curated mentorship and support as they journey, as they evolve, as they become change makers, as they become pioneers and really tread untrodden paths. And this is why you being able to unwa is important. All right, you being able to consciously be about being fruitful. And when you think of fruitfulness, you are but forced to think about the seed formation. You cannot be fruitful. You cannot have a fruitful mindset if you cannot have a seedful mindset. And that once we have the loop of being seedful, being fruitful, then we're able to create patterns of prosperity through the work we do. In our collective as UNGWA, working with other organizations, we've partnered with the Sherry Blair Foundation for Women, and we provide mentorships, year-long mentorships with the UK unit, really providing mentors from across the world to our women in Southern Africa. Other partnerships have been forged, and it's so important to know that you cannot do it alone. It is the collective effort, the symphony of expertise, of experiences, of backgrounds, the very diversity that we ought to be embracing, and the inclusiveness that we ought to be embracing is the melting pot that makes a difference. I've been really enjoying the previous speaker that I was talking about. I forgot his name. Talked about success, all right, about the multiple failures that led to him being fruitful. So that was a very inspiring story. Daniel, thank you so much for this platform. Well done to you and your team,
Yeah.
and may you.
Thank you so much, Lolo. It was a real pleasure having you on this session today, and wish you all the best in your endeavors, and we would collaborate in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right. So we'll now have our keynote address and closing remarks from our CEO, Christine team, and the founder of Hair Future Summit. So without wasting my time, I'll welcome back Christine to the stage to give her closing remarks. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you. So warm welcome again, everyone. I'm back, and thank you so much for all our speakers who joined us today. Definitely has been a very eventful day. And so I'm coming back to really not only close out this session, but to really hopefully inspire you all who are on the call to really be driven by the content that was shared today, and really truly also understand what birthed the Her Future Summit and why we launched this initiative over 5 years ago in the first place. So I'll start by saying that, the speakers and the participants and the stakeholders who came on today, they're a part of a long community of over 400 different speakers, partners, and stakeholders who've been a part of this movement since we started this 5 years ago, right? And I do want to give a virtual round of applause to them for joining us this year and being a part of this movement, and to all speakers who've been a part of this conversation in supporting us not only along the journey, but every year we have a mandate. Every year we have, it's beyond a theme, but a conversation that we want to put at the forefront. And this year is all about how do we accelerate progress? How do we promote gender diversity and inclusivity? Because many times when we go through these programs, especially when it comes to women programs, that we are there to inspire, empower, and really showcase resources, insights, actionable steps that women could take to really take their place in industry, in communities that they serve. This conversation has really sometimes come to the point where, how do we actually accelerate progress? How do we take things to the next level? I know some of the issues that we feel that we face today are issues that our mothers have faced, our grandmothers have faced, our great-grandmothers have faced. And it might feel like this is a timeless issue. The multitude of issues that we as women face within society. But on the other hand, I know that, especially as a mother of two beautiful daughters, I know that the world, as much as that, we want things to accelerate as fast as possible, I know that the world that I'm trying to create for them, won't be the same, and hopefully will be made for the better. Right? So many times these conversations, not to just complain about the state of the affairs of the world when it comes to gender diversity and inclusion, but more so showcasing and highlighting what people are doing every single day to advance the females in different industry sectors, so that way we can make the next generation of pioneers ready for the future. So as stated before, a warm welcome and a huge gratitude to our top speakers for this year. I mean, we had ambassadors, heads of states, athletes, influencers of all different industry speakers come today to join us for this session. And a huge thank you to our continued committed partners who make this program possible and accessible to all. And as I look forward and think about the future of Her Future Summit and the work that we do, I take a step back sometimes to look at where we started from 2019 when we kicked off on a global tour going to different cities, talking about what do we think of the future of women and how do we see us empowering women, young girls and females in all different industry sectors about what's next and what's possible. That transition to the 2020, obviously we experienced a global societal shift with the launch of the pandemic. But during that year, we all went online and we all really engaged with one of the largest tech events that hosted gathering women, which was the Her Future Summit 2020 experience. And we were pleased to have welcomed Sophia, the first celebrity female robot, to join us and give her 2 cents about future empowerment and where she sees her place in this movement that is the Her Future Summit. 2021, we continue to go viral and continue to expand our reach to women across different markets in the Caribbean, in Africa, in the Middle East, in Asia. We start to really reach audiences across multiple different markets. We went to Europe that year. 2022, we continue to have diverse thought leadership influences. We increased the number of panels and dialogues to really showcase different thought leaders from different sectors. And as we go into last year, we continue to spread not only across different markets, but different industries. So we went into science and media and music and, in tech, in so many different industry sectors to where we are today, where we're engaging thought leaders all over the world. And to think that close to 400 speakers, partners, and influencers have been about and support the Her Future Summit movement is truly an honor. Sometimes I'm shocked. Some of the women and influencers who have joined our work and the collective consciousness that we're trying to create when it comes to advancing females. So if you look at the numbers, obviously our programs have really accelerated by the numbers in terms of our speakers, our guests, our partners, and our delegates. And again, our delegates are diverse. And I want to give a huge thank you and a round of applause to our team at GSC who have powered this summit over the past couple of years and really making this program, again, accessible to all, because we have managed programs and initiatives across so many different countries over the past couple of years. We have 60 brands and counting under management at GSC. And I would say that when you think about the participants and the speakers that joined us for today, from the headline keynote, like the Honorable Mary Helene, Ambassador to the Democratic Republic of the Congo of the U.S., or the head of enterprise at United Nations UNCTAD, right? These are the caliber of female influencers and pioneers who are joining us alongside our partners for this theme in terms of accelerating progress and promoting gender diversity and inclusivity. So with that said, I want to conclude by saying that, there's so much more to come. I'm so excited to see what's next when it comes to our work at the Her Future Summit. And I want to share with you 3 things that I hope that you took away from today's session and all the work that we've done. 1, we are here to stay and to really accelerate our reach when it comes to the Her Future Summit movement. We have now celebrated over 5 years of impact. We have reached close to 400 different speakers and partners. We have supported over 15,000 delegates from around the world on an annual basis through not only the annual Her Future Summit, but also our micro webinars and workshops that we've done on a continuous basis. And third, we have also done a lot of really groundwork, workshops, digital skills trainings, accelerator programs to really go beyond the summit and take our own actionable steps to support women. And last but not least, we also come with readily actionable advice. I hope that you took notes on today's sessions and really not only was inspired, but took the blueprints that was shared with you by our thought leaders and our speakers so you could implement them in your career, in your life, in your goals and aspirations. So with that, I want to give a huge warm welcome and a global thank you to everyone who's been a part of the Her Future Summit movement. There's obviously more to come. I officially close the Her Future Summit 6th annual edition, and I look forward to seeing you not only on next year's annual edition, but be a part of the movement. Join us, be a part of the experience, and be a part of our movement as we accelerate progress when it comes to women and girls around the world. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for being a part of the annual Her Future Summit.